The Biden administration and the Federal Trade Commission has banned its first data broker from selling your data, okay, and the data on people and their medical visits. Now, the FTC has been cracking down on health privacy violations after the United States Supreme Court ruled there is no constitutional right to an abortion when it overturned Roe v. Wade in 2022. Now, a Biden executive order in July of that year directed federal agencies to protect people's privacy related to reproductive health care services. So really at the heart of this was the fear that data collectors were selling your location data to third parties and to law enforcement. And considering the fact that we're dealing with various states that will punish individuals seeking abortions or anyone helping that individual seeking an abortion, that location data is obviously incredibly sensitive. And so the Biden administration issues that executive order, and the FTC has been investigating companies that might be engaging in this behavior. Now, after an investigation, the FTC said it had reached a settlement with OutLogic, which is a data broker, a location data broker in particular. It's formerly known as Xmode Social, and they had been collecting information on, basically the where people were visiting, which obviously would also include visits to medical centers and hospitals. So according to the FTC, in one contract, OutLogic collected location data on people who visited certain medical facilities and then went to pharmacies or specialty infusion centers. And the data broker then shared its information with a clinical research company for marketing and advertising. And that's really what these data collectors do. They collect the data to specifically sell it to third parties, and oftentimes those third parties are advertisers. The settlement is the first major enforcement on location data since a 2022 executive order by the Biden administration, and more specifically, OutLogic collects its data from over 100 mobile apps, including software for navigation, weather, and fitness. In 2020, Motherboard revealed that OutLogic collected data from Muslim prayer apps, and in 2022, the markup found that the data broker was receiving location data from the family tracking app Life360, as well as dating apps for the LGBTQ community. By the way, all of this should be stopped. There should be more laws protecting Americans from this type of data collection because it's so invasive. And if you search your name online, chances are a lot of your personal information is readily available. I'm talking about phone numbers, your email address, your actual home address. They're posted by these data brokers. And it's incredibly difficult to wipe that information from the internet. And so I can't stand that all this personal information is public and readily available to potentially nefarious figures, right? So this goes even beyond concerns about anti-abortion laws and various states and law enforcement going after women who are seeking abortions. Now, while the company didn't share any data pertaining to visits to abortion clinics, the FTC said that OutLogic sales were still a significant privacy violation. Companies use location data to target ads to people who have been in specific areas, and anti-abortion groups have used location data to target ads to Planned Parenthood visitors. And so in a statement, FTC Chairwoman Lina Khan, one of the bright spots in the Biden administration, one of the things that I believe Biden did right, he appointed her, says this: the FTC's action against Xmode or OutLogic makes clear that businesses do not have free license to market and sell Americans' sensitive location data. By securing a first ever ban on the use and sale of sensitive location data, the FTC is continuing its critical work to protect Americans from intrusive data brokers and unchecked corporate surveillance. And the settlement requires the company to delete all the data it previously collected without consent. That was the other issue. They were collecting this data without disclosing it to people and without getting consent from Americans. They also have to provide a clear way for people to opt out of the company's location data collection. Now, OutLogic denies that they've done anything wrong. Of course they do. And they argue that the agency's investigation found no misuse of data. But the investigation did find that they were breaking some laws, including laws pertaining to disclosing that they were doing data collection and that they were selling data collection, and they didn't give people a clear way to opt out of that data collection. And so I'm glad that we have Lina Khan as the head of the FTC. I'm glad that she's looking out for ordinary Americans, not only in the context of these gross anti-abortion laws, but in the context of our personal information being readily available to anyone who wants it, because you have these data brokers selling it to third parties. So John, what are your thoughts on this? Are you at all concerned that this kind of behavior is gonna just run rampant as soon as Biden is no longer president?
Sure. I mean, I think much of it will still run rampant even with Biden as president. As you said, they're making some changes. That's good. So what bothers me is there are some things that have been identified that they've done that are illegal. There are other things that they've done that seem like they should be illegal but are not, which I think is more concerning than the things they've done right now that are crimes. I feel the same way about the campaign finance system. I'm not that interested in what's being done that's illegal. I'm interested in the fact that so much that's being done should be but is not. And that ties into my bigger issue. Well, I guess why I want to give credit to Biden or the Biden administration for doing this is because this is an issue area that it is very difficult to get people to prioritize. People are not choosing candidates based on stuff like this. They're not voting based on stuff like this, partially because very rarely do candidates talk about privacy issues. Outside of really high profile ones, like the NSA tapping into your phone. Like it takes the Patriot Act for people to prioritize privacy, but this sort of stuff is always going on. And I don't know if it's just a part of me getting older or whatever, but I feel like more and more we're seeing stuff like this that just makes me think like, maybe we really are on too many apps. Maybe we are willingly giving up too much. And I don't know, like partly it's the pandemic era stuff of people feeling really isolated and everything. I'm just wondering if there is perhaps a way of wanting to back off a little bit of this, just constant sharing, constantly being tapped in. And I think concerns over privacy when it's getting into issues of your dating life, your health, your religion. I think for some people this might be a motivating force for them.
Well, if you think that your behavior can basically prevent the collection and sale of your personal information, you'd be mistaken. This isn't really an issue pertaining to being on too many apps or being too active on social media, although I think people do overshare on social media and they should be careful. The fact of the matter is, every company that does any business online at all is collecting your data and is selling your data to third parties. That is part of their business model. Okay, they don't talk about how that's part of their business model, but it certainly is. So when you're buying items online and you're inputting your address so those items can be delivered to you, you're giving that company your personal information, which they sell. Like that's what happens. Where do you think the data brokers get that personal information from? And so there's so many issues with that, and it feels like a massive mountain to climb to actually pass the legislation necessary to prevent this personal information from being sold to data brokers and from it appearing in the public. And we always talk about things like swatting incidents, and now you have lawmakers whining about swatting incidents. How do you think people have your address? Idiots. Like, you guys are lawmakers. You guys could do something about this, but they don't, because they're too busy with their dog and pony show. They're too busy engaging in the illusion of governance, engaging in these ridiculous hearings that never result in any actual policy that improves the lives of Americans. And in the meantime, our personal information gets sold. It's readily available to any nefarious figure if they look hard enough online, and it's absolutely gross. So at least there's a little bit of positive movement here, but it's an executive order, which means it could easily be reversed as soon as a different administration comes in. And I have no doubt that it probably will be. But we'll see how it plays out.
If you enjoyed this video, that's because of our members. They make us independent, they make us strong, and they make us honest. Become a member today by hitting the join button below.